Well, it's great to be here. Good heavens, I'm embarrassed after that introduction. Well, first of all, it's wonderful to be here. I have usually worn a Hawaiian shirt in most of my career, so I gotta confess right up front, this is not how I usually dress. But when I was sent a video of the sort of talks that have been given, there was a wonderful video of Bill Strickland on leadership that was sent to me. It was the only thing I saw from previous conferences, and of course he was in a suit and tie. So I thought, well, this is a pretty dress-up group of people, so I better dust it all off and look presentable. Not my usual blue jeans and Hawaiian shirt. So I'm not usually in a suit. So today I want to talk about a slightly different perspective. I loved what Matt had to say about business, by the way. It was right in the sweet spot of this different hat I wear in conscious capitalism, which is business can be a force for good when it uses these sort of principles Matt talked about, you know, as the raising conscious, looking at your stakeholders, not your shareholders and stuff. So this whole thing came over into a solution when I graduated from Trader Joe's about 7.5 years ago. I had the opportunity to do a fellowship at Harvard. And I didn't know what I was going to do. It was a fellowship that took old fogies like me who'd had some success in their early careers and later on, and said, we'll give you the run of the university. We want you to study how to tackle some major social ill at scale. But here's the part that got me and why I did it. And then we want you to stand in front of the faculty and your cohort and say, what are you going to do about it? Not just what have you learned, but what are you going to do about it? Because as we know, there's sort of a Zen saying I like, which is, to know and not to do is not to know. It's the same thing. So if we don't put our knowledge and our experience into action, then to the rest of the world, this is as though we didn't know. So first thing you got to start with in any kind of a solution is you better understand the question that you're trying to answer, because you can come up with brilliant answers to the wrong question. So I started down this road with the wrong question. I thought hunger in America was a shortage of calories. And for the vast majority, it's not. So I was working and spent the first 6 to 9 months working to solve a problem that wasn't the true problem. Just getting more calories, just getting more of something to eat wasn't the problem for the vast majority of Americans. Obesity is the face of hunger in America. Granted, it's an oxymoron, doesn't make sense. It's the first time in all of human history that one can say this, but the 49 million Americans that Feeding America would call hungry, because they are. They're hungry, but not for calories, they're hungry for nutrients. Those 49 million Americans that the USDA goes out and measures and says are food insecure. They're making bad decisions on their diet based on economics. And yes, in those 49 million, there are people that truly have not enough to eat and are really wondering where the next meal comes from. But the vast majority of those 49 million are people that are economically challenged, working, and providing for their families, but they're out buying the stuff they can afford. And unfortunately, we have a food system that's designed for cheap calories, expensive nutrients. So I'm going to put this up. Some of you may have seen this. This is the Center for Disease Control. Tracks obesity by state. I mean, maybe it is a disease. So you should Google this, CDC obesity maps. Not now, of course, that'd be rude. But they have it by every year. Starts in 1985, this is the earliest year. And I put this up only to help identify how recent this problem is. Just how new this dilemma is that we face. And this is not just in America, but it's also in Europe. It's actually being exported, unfortunately, as developing countries develop. Obesity follows in its wake. So in 1985, not a single state in the country had obesity. Now this isn't overweight. Just be clear, this isn't overweight. This is obesity, measured by a body mass index over 30. Not one single state in the nation was higher than 14%. So here's what happened in one generation. In one generation, in 25 years, the healthiest state in the nation, whether you're Colorado, where I don't think they let you in Boulder city limits if you don't have a body mass index, less than 20, Massachusetts, California, they're in the 20 to 24%. Much of the nation is 30 and up. One generation. So obesity, of course, has in its train a whole bunch of health morbidity issues, as does hunger, when hunger is a shortage of nutrients, not a shortage of calories. So when you realize that the problem to solve here is not just we got to get them something to eat. So when you realize the answer isn't a full stomach, it's a healthy meal, the problem shifts, the solution shifts, and actually, in many ways, it becomes much more difficult. Because now, cheap calories won't be the answer. Now you got to get expensive nutrients. And it turns out at the same time I was studying this, the USDA came out with their food desert maps. And everyone jumped on the bandwagon that food deserts are the problem. If we just opened up grocers in all the inner cities in America, the problem would be solved. Well, food deserts are a problem. I'm not in any way belittling that they are a problem. But in my opinion, they're not the problem. They're not the main problem. They're not the primary issue here. It's not distance. You could put a Trader Joe's, I'm biased, of course. You can put a Trader Joe's, you can put a Walmart, you can put whatever you want, every corner in every city in America, and many of those 49 million Americans cannot afford to buy what they should be buying. Fruits and vegetables, dairy, protein, not heavily processed foods that are deficient sometimes in nutrients or are high in fat and sodium and sugar. So the issue becomes dollars and affordability. The issue then becomes, how do we provide affordable nutrition? It's a challenge for us as a society. So I'd like to start with this thing. In my opinion, those of us who care about this, whether you care about it from the ecological standpoint, which I'll talk about just in a second very briefly, because most of you are probably better versed in it than I am, or you care about it from the humanitarian standpoint, let's all agree to never use this word again. Who would like a second helping of food waste? Sounds pretty delicious, doesn't it? Nobody in America wants a second helping of food waste. Turns out, waste is the noun, food's the modifier, so it's waste, sort of thing that sanitation departments or maybe composters take care of. And where'd it come from? Well, it came from food. It's hard to get worked up on, yeah, let's do something about that. Here's what the real reality is. The reality is that the vast majority of this food is wasted food. Wholesome, healthy, excess food. It was either too much in the wrong spot at the wrong time, it might be cosmetically blemished, etc. But this changes the relationship to it completely. And I would definitely encourage you and recommend that you refer to this as a wasted food problem, not a food waste problem. You guys probably all know that this issue, by the way, is monstrous just from an ecological standpoint. That if wasted food in the world were its own country, it would be the third largest generator of greenhouse gases behind the US and China. It's the number one component, landfills. Wasted food, when it breaks down in a landfill, turns into methane. Methane's up to 20 times or more times potent than CO2. So there's a lot of reasons why, just from an ecological standpoint, we want to reduce the amount of food that's being wasted. Now, this is Exhibit A of wasted food. When most people go, wasted food, food waste, still doesn't sound so great. I was on a panel with the CEO of a gentleman, one of the larger companies that serves all the food service companies, called Marcon out of California, probably $30 billion company or so, and a holding company for the buying of all these food service. He was showing this picture on a panel we were at called Feed Families, Not Landfills, down in Washington, D.C., and I borrowed this from him because this is a picture of a field of lettuce. Here's what's interesting about this. You guys maybe already can guess the punchline. This is after the harvest. This all gets plowed under. Why? Lettuce today is mostly grown to fit in a package. Nature did not get the memo. Romaine lettuce has got to be, I mean, how many of you, right, buy romaine lettuce in a bag? Comes like in a 3-pack, right, or so, and you get it in Earthbound Organic or Foxy or something. But it comes in a bag. Next time you really notice, it's the entire plant. You got the root, the leaves are there, they haven't been trimmed. It has to be an exact size to fit in that bag. Food is so ubiquitous that it no longer is worthwhile to send labor back out into fields 2 or 3 times to pick it. So you pick the one time it's best served to get the most of it, and you send people out to do that because labor is more expensive than food in many instances. Here's the other instance. I'm going to run through this a little quicker. This is not 1 in 100 Americans understand code dates. They refer to them as expiration dates. The second word you guys should stop using, all of us as a society should stop using. These are display codes. They're not mandated by federal law. Most people are shocked to hear that. Only infant baby formula is. So when you see a sell-by or a best-by date, or even a use-by date, these are unrelated to actual food safety. I love this one. Honey. Any of you guys know what the code life of honey is? Thank you. You guys do know the code life of honey. I love that. So here's one that says best by October 2nd, 2015. Do you know how many households in America probably, if the mother goes into the cupboard and sees something that says this and goes, oh dear, I better not give that to my kids. Oh my, that may not still be good. There you go. So, everybody puts code dates on stuff. Harvard Law, Food and Policy Clinic, and NRDC did a joint document. Highly recommend you look at this again. It has a 2 to 3 page executive summary on the NRDC website. It's a dating game. How we waste billions of pounds of food, or millions of pounds of food, just due to confusion over code dates. So, what I did was I took a look at this and said, on one hand, we got this issue of 1 in 6 Americans aren't able to eat the way they should eat, primarily because they can't get affordable nutrition. On the other hand, I knew from my 35 years in the food business that there was a lot of food that was good, wholesome, excess food that was available. So why don't we use one problem, try and solve another problem? And in the process, I had some other learnings. There were important learnings. So the first one was this number, 75%. When I did this fellowship at Harvard, one of the groups I worked with at Kennedy School, I learned that the average nonprofit spends 75% of their management's time in fundraising. Shouldn't be a surprise to any of us. Any of you guys sit on nonprofit boards? Run nonprofits? It's the air you breathe. Without money, you're out of business. Not being a fundraiser, not wanting to have a business that was 75% of mine or someone else's time just doing fundraising, I tried to think about, isn't there a way to run a business where you could get your funding by delivery of mission instead of for delivery of mission? Because I know Trader Joe's, none of us in this room would have ever heard of them if over the decades, 75% of management's time had been spent in things off of the business. The marketplace would have punished them. Next thing is, you go down to the inner city, you start to do focus groups, start to talk to them, you go to church groups, you go out to the neighborhood meetings, the councils, the farmers meetings, all this stuff. And the big issue that comes out is, we don't want a handout. That doesn't really give a sustainable help for us. We want dignity in shopping. We want to just shop. We want to be able to go and buy food like everybody else. We have a pride as a human need to feel we've provided for our family. So next issue is, how do we provide a sustainable solution to this issue of affordable nutrition to food insecure in a way that engenders dignity? So, as Abraham Maslow said, if you're a hammer, all the world's a nail. So for me, being a retailer, of course the answer was retail, right? In retail, here's the interesting thing. You move the position of, I'm the giver, you're the receiver. You've got to qualify to make sure that I am giving this service to the right person. You've got to qualify for my service. I naturally have a power differential. When I'm a retailer, I've got to earn your patronage. I got to win your business. In the free marketplace, you can shop with or not shop. I think IRS is about the only business I know that we don't have an option to use. So if you open up a Trader Joe's, the marketplace validates their right to exist when you go and shop. So with Daily Table, I wanted to do a retail store where it would be open, it would be clean, it wouldn't feel like a salvage outlet. It would be where we'd recover food. We would then offer this at economically agnostic prices to all of the inexpensive, less nutritious options in the neighborhood. So the challenge, again with retail, what I like, is it's there. When you get off the bus at 6 o'clock at night, after all, this is targeted not to compete with food banks, by the way. We're actually an agency of the Greater Austin Food Bank because Catherine D'Amato, who's the CEO there, and her team recognized in visiting the store and over the years that we've been engaged with them that we're doing work reaching a part of the population that's difficult to reach. It's a different expanding of a spectrum. That working poor won't go to a soup kitchen often. They won't go to food banks, as I mentioned. So we're not here to compete, we're here to supplement and try to find a different way to reach people that otherwise may not be reached. Now, so we've created bright walls, it's an open floor. I love the fact sometimes people come in and tell me, you know, hey, when the winter comes, you got to treat wood floors with the salt coming in and all this. I have to then embarrassingly tell them you're standing on linoleum. So we also then take product. The other big learning we had, time. All of us in America are short on time. And to your benefit, I've only got 3 or 4 more minutes to talk, so I'm short on time too. So 80% of Americans don't know what they're going to have for dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Turns out, as you move down the economic rung, that gets worse, not better, because you're often working several jobs, you're taking public transportation, you don't have time to cook. And in the interaction with our actual customers, we learned if you really want to serve us, give us grab-and-go ready-to-eat meals. Do the cooking for us, because otherwise when I get off the bus, I'm going to go across the street to KFC, I'm going to go a block down the street to McDonald's, I'm going to go look what they can get a bag of chips and soda water. I'm going to do something else that's ready that gives them, when I walk through that door, dinner's ready or there's trouble. So what we did was we ended up putting in a full kitchen. We staffed from the neighborhood. 78% of all of our employees, we have like 30-some employees, are from a 1.5-mile radius of the store. We end up taking product in, we make it, we produce it. We have a large window off the retail floor, so when you walk in the store, you can look right into the kitchen. You can watch people making things, and it's amazing what that does to, one, build a sense of trust and build a sense of relationship with the food. It didn't just come from somewhere else, you're watching it be produced. We recover food from Boston Public Produce Market in Chelsea. We work with agencies like Food for Free, Boston Area Gleaners, many others, farmers that have helped. Eva is in the audience here today, and she has been a magnificent help to us with fantastic product. That when you have excess product, you've got product that can be gleaned. We take this, we turn this either into meals that we price affordably, or in this case, we recover stuff, we'll date it, we'll put things on it. Beautiful looking product. Product that would have many times been plowed under. We have nutritional guidelines. I won't bore you with the details on that. We've got together a team of the world-class nutritionists, Harvard School of Public Health, Boston Medical Center, Children's Hospital, Common Square Health Center, et cetera, to tell us what are the guardrails, how much sugar, how much sodium, how much fat, how much fiber, et cetera, et cetera. And everything we produce in the kitchen, everything we carry in the store meets those guidelines. So here's a typical store. So here's an example of what affordable nutrition is. So this is produced right there, you can watch it being produced, 8 ounces of chicken with brown rice and vegetables, $1.49 for a pound. We have, this one's 24 ounces of chicken soup for $1.49. We do vegetable soup, $1.29. Stonyfield yogurt, short code product. We don't sell anything out of code, but this product was too short in code to ship to the grocer. So we ended up being able to pick this up every week, hundreds of cases. We do the same with Cedars Mediterranean and others. Product that's short code that otherwise in Cedars was literally going to a landfill. and we'll get it and we'll have up to 30 days. 30 days is an eternity to us. We'll sell quarts of Stonyfield yogurt, organic, $1.49. So last slide, last pitch. In my opinion, I think we've all got an obligation and an opportunity. That there are 17 million kids in those 49 million Americans that if we're not careful, aren't going to get the neurological development they need from the nutrients. That we owe it to ourselves as a society because we've got the food. We just got to get it in the right form, the right spot. We can use one problem to solve another problem, to do it in a manner that provides dignity, respect, and is sustainable and scalable. Thank you.